What is sourdough discard? Also known as unfed starter, this is just the portion of sourdough starter that is not used to sustain your mother's starter and gets discarded before you feed your starter again. A lot of people say, well, that seems really wasteful. Why do I have to discard? And there are two main reasons for this. One, if you made your starter with a 1:1:1 feeding ratio, you did 50 grams of starter, 50 grams flour, 50 grams water, and you chose not to discard and you wanted to feed that again, you would have to have 150 grams of that starter with 150 grams of flour and 150 grams of water. And every time you fed it, you would have to match whatever amount of starter is in that jar and feed it equal parts of flour and water, and that would just create a massive amount of starter. Two, if you chose not to ever discard, your starter would become extremely acidic and start to make your bread taste very, very, very sour. The nice thing about sourdough starter is you can maintain a very small portion and keep it going. Say you take 5 grams of starter, you could feed it 10 grams of flour and 10 grams of water, and you would be dealing with 25 grams of starter, which is just basically a tablespoon. Early on in your sourdough starter's life, I encourage people to compost their discard because it still has some bad bacteria in it and it will smell pretty gross. But after about 7 days of proper maintenance, you can start to save your discard in a sealed jar in the fridge and use that in flat discard recipes that do not require a leavening agent. I think sourdough discard improves the taste, texture, and consistency of most baked goods I make, and I honestly prefer it over just regular baked goods. Would you believe me if I told you all of these pictures and videos are of things I've made with sourdough discard? I will say that the composition and the consistency of your sourdough discard will change the longer it has been in the fridge. When you first put it in there, it's going to be pretty thick, and as it sits, it will become runnier and more acidic as time goes on. So if you don't like your baked goods to be super sour, I encourage people to use it pretty quickly after you put it in the fridge, say within a month, but the longer it sits, the more acidic it will become. Here are just some of the ways that I have used sourdough discard and some of my favorite ways. The first is just using it in a roux. I like to use it as a thickening agent for any of my soups, gravies, you name it. I love using it in crackers, in muffins, in scones, in cookies, in pie crust, in tortillas. You name it. Anything that doesn't need a leavening agent, I'm using it. I've made buttermilk with it before and it turned out amazing. I love putting it in all of my batter for my fried chicken and my fried steak. The opportunities are really endless for using sourdough discard and you can get really creative with it.